This is Lisa from MobileTechReview, and this is the OnePlus Watch 3, which may look a lot like the OnePlus Watch 2, but it's got some improvements, and we're going to look at them now. So clearly, probably I personally am not the target audience for this watch. It looks kind of big on me. I like big watches. I even wear an Apple Watch Ultra. I've used the Galaxy Watch Classic. I like them kind of big. This one I have met my match, though it will fit folks with 140 millimeter up to 210 millimeter wrist sizes, and I fall comfortably within that range. I am 5'10". I might be skinny, but I'm kind of tall. But clearly 46 millimeter, but one of the bigger watches on the market. It is stainless steel, so it is heavy. New for this era is a titanium bezel. That's just a little bezel, considered more decorative than anything else, around the top. The rest of it is stainless steel. So this weighs 81 grams, which is about 20 grams heavier than the Samsung Galaxy Watch Ultra. Chunky, but you know, so just so you know what you're getting into. For those of you who like those big traditional looking watches and you can pull this off, this is for you, obviously. One of the dings against the OnePlus Watch is it doesn't come in different size options. So this is the only size that you can get. The band is fluoro rubber, which they've used before, previous generations, kind of a corrugated rubber kind of design. Easy to release pins on the back. And what's new compared to the last generation, we still have the Snapdragon 5 processor for watches inside, but we have a new coprocessor, MCU as they call it, which handles the background stuff, the lightweight stuff, so that helps contribute to longer battery life and a bigger battery too, like 631 milliamp per hour battery. That is huge for a watch. Well, it is a huge watch. Put it to good use, and they did. Also, we have a slightly larger display. It's 1.5 inches versus 1.4 inches, mostly, you know, the usual bezel reduction on the display, that sort of thing. But 2,200 nits of brightness instead of 1,000. That's a big jump, so that's important for watches. You are outdoors and everywhere with them, and you need them to be bright enough to be seen. Of course, you have always on display, which by default is turned off, despite the fact that battery life, long battery life is a hallmark of this. You can turn it on, which I have done. Raise to wake and tap to wake, which seem a little slow to react, like old school slow, but anyway, you can just turn it on. When you turn it on, it says you'll reduce battery run times by like 2 days if you turn it on, which sounds like, oh my gosh, right? But that's because the battery life is so crazy. They claim 5 days in the auto power mode or smart power mode, and you know, they're being conservative there, because I was with always on display getting up to 4 days on this with moderate use, including some exercise and outdoor exercise with GPS and all that sort of thing. The other new thing is the crown. Yes, it actually rotates now, yay, and it's my favorite thing in a way, because you go to your app screen, you know, you press on the crown button, and when you rotate through, it gives you little labels underneath those icons, because I never remember what they all mean, you know, so little things like that, nice touch. So obviously, Android Watch is OnePlus, so it's compatible with all Android phones running Android OS 9 and up. And mostly, it's not like you're losing a lot of features if you're not using a OnePlus phone. You'll gain like a couple of things, like remote shutter feature for the camera, for example, and remote music control for playback. Not deal breakers. So it's not so much like Samsung, where you might be giving up some of the more advanced health metrics. Speaking of that, boy, does this have health metrics on board. In the United States and Canada, the ECG is not enabled. It does have the feature, but they're waiting for FDA approval, which is supposed to happen in Q2 of this year, 2025. So it will be coming. But you've got the usual stuff. You've got your heart rate monitor, you've got blood oxygen monitoring, and now they have this new thing, arterial fitness, which basically tries to decide how stiff your arteries are. I had to look this one up because I hadn't seen this on a watch before. Apparently Huawei is really the only other one to have done this so far. So it tries to do an approximation of acoustic feedback of how quickly your pulse does something versus something else with all the sensors in the back. I don't know. I am obviously a person of a certain age that says I have low arterial stiffness. It's not really very well explained. So it says low, and it says this is, look, a health anomaly you should look at. And then it says, well, you're doing pretty good relative to your peers. So I don't know. I do exercise a lot. Let's hope I have rubbery, elastic arteries. That's part of the 60-second health checkup thingy. You know, the readiness thing like we see with the Pixel Watch 3 and the Fitbit software, and Samsung does this, and everybody does this now. So it looks at a variety of metrics. But this one is kind of real time. It'll remind you to do that. So you sit still for 60 seconds, you put your finger on the lower action button, and it measures your vitals and all that sort of thing, including your arterial stiffness. So you've got all that. So it's got you covered. How accurate is it? It's impossible to know without doing health studies, right, with medical facilities and all that sort of thing. Just like with the sleep measurements, I can compare it to other high-end watches with which it is competing, even though it's a little bit less expensive than some of them. It's $330, which is a $30 price increase from last year, but intro price is $300 right now, so call it the same as last one, which compared to a Samsung Galaxy Watch Ultra that's $650, well, it's pretty competitively priced, right? And even versus the Pixel Watch 3. Anyway, the sleep features. It does it all. It measures your sleep stages, and it will keep track of your blood oxygen while you're sleeping. It will look at your respiration rate, which all of the trendy current watches do, and it has snore detection if you use it in conjunction with your phone, which will use the microphone to listen for snoring, so it'll let you know if you maybe have sleep apnea, all those sorts of things. And it does wrist temperature tracking. You have to wear it for several days to get that, mostly used for ovulation cycles more than anything else. So all those features are there. I will say that this was too chunky. I couldn't wear this for like 5 days straight when I was sleeping, so I didn't test that when it comes to the wrist temperature function. However, it did say, compared to all those other watches, which we have reviewed and tested them all, it said I had more deep sleep than any of the other watches. Who's right? I really can't tell you. Most of the other watches tell me I have hardly any deep sleep, and I'd probably be dead by now. I don't know. So maybe this one is closer to correct. It's certainly better than nothing. All of these devices are, to give you an idea of how you're doing. It tells you how much time you spend awake and all that sort of thing. So health and fitness, obviously. Android gives you all your smartwatch features. You can get your notifications for your emails, your apps, whatever it is that you want to know about here. There is no LTE on this. It's dual band Wi-Fi, and it has dual band GPS, or better than average accuracy, and Bluetooth, of course. So there's that, and that's something that some of the very expensive alternatives like the Apple Watch Ultra and the Galaxy Watch Ultra do have LTE built in, but you can still have your text messages show up here because they can be pumped over as notifications, despite that fact. When it comes to exercise metrics, this doesn't fit me as great as I would like, again, because it's a big watch and I'm not huge enough for it, even though I can get it fairly snug. I notice when using like the rowing machine, which is for some reason one of the harder things always for watches to measure, it said that I reached a higher maximum heart rate than other watches have said, and it is not correct. But typically I've noticed when doing running, when doing walking, when doing all the exercises that I do, it seems pretty spot on, which we would like to see in a smartwatch in 2025 with health features. But you know, the exercise list is amazing. You have 6 auto detect, which is the usual walking, running, cycling, rowing, interestingly enough, a couple of things like that. But there's like 100 supported exercise types. I don't care how obscure your exercise is, it probably is supported on this, which is pretty neat. Oh, and it's also IP68 water resistant, and 50 feet of going underwater with this, you're good. So the usual 5 atmospheres, so yes. And you can also auto-detect swimming. Speaking of those exercises, you can wear it to measure that. Let's get back to that battery life thing, because that's really what sets us apart from pretty much every other major smartwatch on the market now, Apple or Android platform. Between that new coprocessor and that really ginormous battery in here, this thing really is just hard to kill. It's really nice. So for those of you who like smartwatches but just charge it every night, or how am I going to track my sleep when it doesn't make it through a full, very busy day, maybe with some exercise and all that kind of thing, and then through the night, well, this is the watch for you, because wow, just wow. Even if I'm doing things like going for a 2-mile hike or something like that with the GPS on, and then doing some other exercise, like my favorite rowing exercise, for example, all that stuff, and it's like, it goes days, is with the always on display on, it's just really pretty impressive. So that is the selling point of this watch. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more cool tech videos, and thumbs up if you like this vid.